from a franchise that has gone way past its expiry date to stars fighting on set. This is the real reason Fast 10 Part 2 is the last one. Admit it, we've all loved the Fast and Furious franchise while growing up. But that's the thing. We were kids in the early 2000s, and they're still making the movies to this day. Seriously. In case you don't remember, the first Fast movie was released in 2001. We're currently living in 2024. Even Harry Potter didn't run for that long, and that franchise was much more profitable. Plus, when it comes to new installments, fans expect something fresh and new. It seems that the writers and filmmakers have run out of ideas, and just to make the story more interesting, they throw in a new villain. The worst part? Most of these bad guys end up turning good for the sake of the plot. There's no doubt that Jason Momoa's portrayal of Dante Reyes knocked the ball out of the park, because he's probably the best part of the whole franchise. But the thing you should be asking yourself is this: why did it take so long for them to get a villain? Sure, Luke Hobbs and Deckard Shaw were great, but again, Shaw was introduced in Fast 6 and Hobbs in Fast 5. That's still 5 to 6 years after the first movie for the villains to get good. The stories are lacking as of late, and fans are beginning to lose interest. On top of that, it doesn't really leave a good impression on everyone because they've been making these movies a decade after Paul Walker's death. I mean, it's gotten to the point where people are forgetting that he was a main character in the franchise in the first place. Paul passed away on the 30th of November 2013 in a horrific car crash. Even though the cast and crew were mourning, they still finished his final movie and gave his character, Brian O'Connor, a happy ending. Yeah, I bet you didn't remember his character's name. In all honesty, a lot of fans thought that Walker's death would mark the end of the franchise. Boy, were they wrong. Using CGI and his brother Cody Walker, who looks an awful lot like Paul, we got to see Brian's fulfilling ending in Fast 7. Ever since then, there have been 3 Fast and Furious movies that hit theaters. That is if you exclude Hobbs and Shaw. Besides, the ending of Fast 7 was the perfect way to end the franchise. It was emotional, fulfilling, happy, and had a banger of a soundtrack that's still listened to today. The problem here is that although O'Connor isn't in the stories, he's still mentioned or shown in flashbacks. Not only is this poor storytelling, but it also gets exhausting. It's almost as if his presence is being used as fan service. Just look at this scene from Fast 9. Yes, the ending is emotional because of how everyone reacts when mentioning Brian, but how long will they keep this up? They've been keeping Paul Walker alive in the Fast and Furious universe, and at this point it's getting awkward and uncomfortable. The worst part? There's an awkward excuse for his absence all the time. So, in Furious 7, O'Connor wanted to focus on his family and wanted a peaceful life with them, away from all the car chases and danger. See? This made sense and wasn't forced at all. Plus, with Paul gone, there's not much they could have worked with anyway. In The Fate of the Furious, Dom goes rogue and tries stealing an EMP. Knowing the story behind this, Brian, being his brother-in-law, is not to be seen whatsoever. What did the movie have to say? Oh, Brian simply did not know. But wait, the reason in Fast 9 is 10 times better. And when I say better, you just know I mean worse. Mia, Brian's wife, returns without her husband. Why's that? Well, he's busy babysitting their kids, along with Dom's kids too. This is something you'd hear in a Disney show when a character doesn't appear in the next season because they quit. Fast 10 had a flashback from Fast 5 back when Brian and Dom were stealing a vault. Okay, this was a pretty decent way to mention the character because these events were tied to Dante and how he was there when it all happened. Since this new bad guy is 1,000 times more dangerous, O'Connor's further presence was excused, with him and Mia knowing about the threat and now in hiding. I'm pretty sure even Vin Diesel thought that this was getting done one too many times, which is why Fast 10 Part 2 needs to put an end to the franchise as a whole. Sidelining a main lead in this massive saga is both a disservice to the character and a betrayal to the fans who've stuck around for the past 2 decades. Since I mentioned Harry Potter early in the video, can you imagine what it would have been like if they dismissed Ron Weasley in the last 5 films? Insane, right? But Diesel said that when the world was struggling with Paul's loss in 2013, the studio made a very bold and righteous move to keep his character alive. Even he couldn't imagine ending the saga without truly saying goodbye to Brian O'Connor. But did he not say goodbye to him in Fast 7? The scene where their cars took different roads had everyone in the theater in tears. It seems like the main issue with this never-ending series is this one specific character. Oh, there's also the fan theory about these films being money laundering schemes, but that's something to talk about in another video. Plus, that's just a theory, a funny one at best. As for Fast 10 Part 2, Brian is bound to make a final return, and no one knows what route they'll take. Will he have a noble death like John Cena's Jacob Toretto in Fast 10? Or will Cody be acting one last time alongside Dom and his family? Hopefully it's the former, because if there's one thing you need to steer clear of, it's that some of the cast members do not get along with each other. The story behind this is massive and has caused many problems within the franchise. It all started with Dwayne Johnson and Vin Diesel. The Rock threw shade at a bunch of male co-stars after posting a clip from Fast 8. He wrote, "There's no other franchise that gets my blood boiling more than this one. An incredible, hardworking crew. Universal Studios Entertainment has been a great partner as well. My female co-stars are always amazing, and I love them. My male co-stars, however, have a different story. Some conduct themselves as stand-up men and true professionals, while others don't." This sparked rumors, drama, and a lot of theories about who he was talking about. All eyes were on Vin Diesel because of his overall attitude on set, the fact that he'd show up late, and being an egomaniac. But wait, all those words I just used are just assumptions based on what Johnson had to say. In reality, Diesel is very passionate about this franchise and wouldn't dare to do anything to hurt his co-stars. In a now-deleted post, Tyrese Gibson said that he didn't know of any beef behind the scenes between Dwayne or anyone. In fact, he found The Rock to be one of the most professional actors he's ever worked with. Scott Eastwood, who's a relatively newer addition to the Fast family, said that Johnson could have been mad because Vin would spend a lot of time in his trailer. When Dwayne had to break the silence, he made it clear that any issues had been dealt with and were never that big of a problem in the first place. But when the movie wrapped up shooting, Dwayne thanked all his co-stars, except Vin Diesel. With cast members trying to cool down the beef, tensions rose when Vin and Dwayne hardly had any screen time together in The Fate of the Furious. Then came the Hobbs and Shaw spin-off, which caused Fast and Furious 9's release date to be delayed. This was considered yet another blow at Vin, because, knowing the kind of celebrity The Rock is, he's the kind of person to want the spotlight all to himself. Johnson said that the spin-off was to give actors and characters a platform to tell amazing stories and win the hearts of fans all around the world. But wait, the feuds don't end just there. It turns out, Michelle Rodriguez feels that the female stars of the franchise aren't treated properly at all. In fact, she thought of leaving the Fast and Furious family in July 2017 if the crew didn't give female stars more love. Mia was written off after Paul's death. Ramsey was sidelined for many movies after Fast 7. And Elena Neves only exists to give context to Dom's storyline. Not to mention that Elena met a very untimely end to her character. Badly written female characters, drama on set. Why wouldn't Fast 10 Part 2 be the end? So what do we know about the grand finale? Well, Dom and his crew will face off against Dante yet again to resolve what happens in Fast 10. And yes, Dwayne is probably returning as Hobbs too. But it's still not confirmed if this will be the end of the racing world, or if there'll be a ton of spin-offs in the future. It's expected to be released in April 2025, so there's only so much we can expect until then. And so, from stars fighting on set to a franchise that has gone way past its expiry date, that was the real reason Fast 10 Part 2 is the last one.